Hi everyone, this video is going to look at how significant was the Industrial Revolution. So to start us off then, I'm asking you for your starter to write down what was the Industrial Revolution and what did it change? So can anyone tell me anything that changed? Maybe about where people live, where they work, what the kind of diseases and privacy was like, anything like that. So pause the video, date, title and task. Okay, so it's a bit weird because we seem to have jumped a fair bit in chronology. So we have been looking at the medieval and early modern periods, and a few bits of modern stuff thrown in as well. But we've never actually talked about what makes the modern era modern. And that's kind of what the Industrial Revolution is all about, because it completely changes England. Like, to the point where for the 2012 Olympic opening ceremony, it all focuses on the Industrial Revolution because it physically and emotionally changes England. So that's why we care about the Industrial Revolutions, because it has such a dramatic effect that you can still see today. So this video is going to go through various consequences of the Industrial Revolution, and you need to categorise them into positive and negative. So there's not very many negatives, there are quite a lot of positives. If you don't want to do a table, you could maybe just do two spider diagrams, positives and negatives. If you are doing a table though, please use a ruler and pencil. So copy out that table or do yourself two spider diagrams ready to go. So the first consequence is all about trains. So trains were one of the perhaps biggest technological advances in the Industrial Revolution, and it connected the world in a way never seen before. It made it easier to travel around England and the rest of Europe, which is brilliant if you like have a business that sells products because you can sell it further afield. So you need to write this down into the positive or the negative section. The government also started having greater involvement in people's lives through schooling, free school meals and health schemes. So really, it's because of the Industrial Revolution that we have free school meals for children, and obviously Marcus Rashford, along with the NHS. So pause the video, pop this down in the positives or negatives. It was discovered that cholera, which is an often fatal disease that gives you really severe diarrhea and then you basically die from dehydration. So they discovered that it's being spread through dirty water. So a system to allow access to clean water was established. And we still use it today. Or you've probably already used it today. If you've gotten yourself a glass of water or flushed the toilet, then that comes from our water system to bring clean water to people. And because of it, cholera stopped being a problem after this clean water system was invented. Factory owners didn't like football because many hours were lost to injury, and actually some bosses called for the banning of football because, as you can see in this lovely picture, people would be injured, and then that would mean they couldn't work, so the businesses lost money. Sewers were invented again, so to get rid of all the waste and keep the streets clean, or as clean as it could be. Books specifically for children were also produced because of cheaper techniques. So we get the first kids' books because they're cheap to make. And as you saw when we looked at children's entertainment, you also get cheaper toys as well. Respiratory diseases, so that's like lung diseases, like asthma, were common with children who breathed in the fumes of factories. And also many other people. And you can see by that picture just the amount of pollution the Industrial Revolution caused. There's no regulation, they don't understand about fumes and pollution or anything like that. Machine toys for children became popular, and it was easy to make cheap metal toys for most kids. You could pick these up at penny bazaars for a penny. And brass instruments were invented, which led to brass bands that used trombones and tubas, which are pictured below. And employers actually started their own workplace bands so their employees wouldn't get drunk and injure themselves at work. A very strange problem to have, but quite common. Um, there was lots of issues with people getting their paycheck and then spending it straight down the pub. So this was uh, businesses' way of making sure that didn't happen. It was easier to travel to the seaside for a holiday, and this meant seaside towns like Blackpool grew in popularity. Populations in industrialised towns increased, particularly if they had a train station, because everyone moved to the towns for jobs. Now, the jobs were probably less paid because they weren't very skilled, but they would still be pretty much guaranteed a job. Factories closed down for maintenance, which created a summer holiday season when whole communities were off for a week or two. And this is actually where our 6 week summer holidays come from. So when each town would take a different week off, that would leave like 6 or 7 weeks where there were lots of tourists around. So it's thanks to the Industrial Revolution that we have our 6 week summer holiday. Printing press was invented, so literally an old style printer, which has shaped humankind's search for knowledge. And this leads to so many discoveries like DNA, X-rays, computers later on. Like it massively fuels people's want for knowledge and to better themselves. Okay, so now you're going to need to get two colours, or if you don't have any colouring pencils, you can just do two symbols, maybe like a L and an S or something. And you need to highlight the short-term consequences in one colour. So a short-term consequence is something that lasts less than 5 years. And also any long-term consequences, so that last over 5 years. So pause the video and start highlighting. Okay, so now we're going to apply another skill, which is looking at change, but also impact and like significance. So I would like you to suggest one consequence that has the biggest change, and then also one that has the smallest impact. Now, in history, when we're looking at assessing impact, we look at those four small bullet points at the bottom. So it's a really significant event if it affects lots of people. It's a really significant event if it affects people a lot. It's really significant if the change lasts a long time. It's significant if it improves lives. So that's kind of your criteria at the bottom when working out your biggest and smallest consequence in terms of significance. So you need to write those just as 2 sentences into the chat box, please. So you will have the biggest or the most significant change is X because of Y. So 2 sentences in the chat box, please, and pause the video. So last week you guys did a teacher sir. It's now time to do your self-serve, your scheme of work. So I'm asking you this key question at the top. How far did the Industrial Revolution change life in Britain? Now, in history, when we talk about change, we have to talk about before, during, and after, and then come to a judgment about how far did the Industrial Revolution change life in Britain. Now, from my tone of voice, you'll probably work out it's either very far or somewhat far, but you can make that decision for yourself. So I've just put some pictures on the screen for things I would be kind of expecting to see in each of these paragraphs, because each of those blue boxes is a paragraph. So before the Industrial Revolution, you'll be talking about the farming community that England was. You'll be talking about what happened to their waste, what happened with disease. During the Industrial Revolution, you'll be talking about factories, the housing, the injuries, and what inventions there were. And then you'll be talking about after. So you'll be talking about population, about travel, about clean water, about medicines, all things like that. And then crucially, your judgment needs to answer that question. So does it change Britain a lot, a little, or not at all? Now, this is probably going to take you a good 15 to 20 minutes. And you're obviously going to need to prove that you have self-served it. Self-served it. So whatever you do it, just make sure it's going to be easy to send your teacher to prove it has been self-marked. So pause the video, give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to have a go at writing those 4 paragraphs. Okay, so this is your self-ser then. Have you used the given structure? Have you got those 4 paragraphs? Have you accurately referred to life before the Industrial Revolution? So have you said most people are farmers? Most people live in the countryside. Diseases like cholera were really bad. Have you talked about what happened during the Industrial Revolution with at least 3 pieces of evidence? Have you talked about what happened after, again with at least 3 pieces of evidence? And have you used one of the 3 options for how far? And of course, is your spelling and grammar correct? So you might just want to have someone at home have a quick read through your answer. So once you've done that, you just need to send a picture to your teacher so they can confirm you have self-served a piece of work this term. So just to prove that you are definitely paying attention, in the chat box, I would like you to answer this question just in a sentence. So obviously, we're going to be having a brief read through your long answers, but I just want a summary in the chat box. How significant was the Industrial Revolution? So how important was it in just changing things? And again, you've got the criteria for you on the board, so just pop that in a sentence on the chat box. And of course, as always, there is a show my homework quiz for you to go and do. Enjoy! Bye!